The samurai's lantern. The rain fell with a steady rhythm, drumming softly against the paper walls of the tea-house. Beneath its slanted roof, a lone figure sat cross-legged, the faint orange glow of an oil lamp casting shadows across his weathered face. His name was Kenta, once a proud samurai in service to the Matsuda clan, now a ronin, masterless, nameless in the eyes of the world. He had not spoken his name aloud in years. Outside, the wind carried the scent of pine and damp earth. It was the third year of the Genroku era, and war simmered like an unattended kettle across the provinces. Lords schemed for power, and peasants whispered of bloodshed with every dawn. But Kenta's exile had not come from the battlefield. His disgrace was quieter, heavier. He had failed. The shogun had declared the Matsuda family traitors after a forged letter suggested betrayal. Their lands were seized, their castle burned to embers. Kenta had been away when the attack came. By the time he returned, his daimyo and all the household were dead, except for one. A boy, Noboru. He was 6 then, the last Matsuda heir. Kenta had found him hidden in the ashes, curled beneath a floorboard with a doll clutched in his small hand. The child had not spoken for days, and when he did, it was only to ask if his mother would return. Kenta had sworn then, not by steel or ceremony, but by the broken oath in his heart. He would protect the boy until his last breath. Now, 4 years later, they lived like shadows in the northern province of Ichigo, among rice paddies and fishermen. Noboru passed as a farmer's orphan, and Kenta as his uncle. But the past, like winter, always returns. Tonight, Kenta felt it in his bones. He blew out the lantern. The door slid open with a soft creak. "Kenta," came a whisper behind him. The boy stood barefoot, his kimono slightly too big, his dark hair uncombed. "You should sleep, Noboru." "I had a dream again," the boy said. Kenta turned. "The one with your father?" Noboru nodded. "He was holding a lantern. But the light went out. And I couldn't find him." Kenta crouched beside him. "Your father's light is in you. Even when it feels gone, it's there. Hidden, maybe, but burning still." Noboru's small hand found Kenta's. In the distance, a dog barked. Then another. Trouble. Kenta rose, instantly alert. He moved to the hidden chest beneath the floorboard and drew out his sword, carefully wrapped in cloth, untouched by time. Its steel still gleamed, despite the dust. He turned to Noboru. "Hide. Go to the river hut. Like we practiced." But now, the boy vanished into the night, barefoot steps silent. Moments later, 3 figures stepped into the moonlit clearing beyond the tea-house. Ronin, armed and armored with piecemeal gear. They moved like wolves, half confident, half hungry. One called out, "Old man. You shelter a boy that doesn't belong to you." Kenta stepped forward, blade still sheathed. "The boy has no family. Let it be. The boy is the last Matsuda. And Lord Suda pays handsomely for bloodlines." They stepped closer. Kenta sighed. "So it begins." The first charged, yelling. Kenta dodged effortlessly, drawing his sword in a single breath. Steel flashed once. The Ronin dropped, eyes still open. The second came with a spear. Kenta parried, twisted, and shattered his opponent's grip with a precise strike to the wrist. The man staggered back, then collapsed with a guttural cry. The third hesitated. "You were one of us," he said, voice trembling. "Why throw your life away for a lost name?" Kenta's eyes were cold. "Because it's not lost." He moved before the man could flee. The clearing fell silent again. Only the wind remained, tugging at bloodied grass. Kenta breathed in the scent of death and memory. Then turned toward the river. Noboru waited inside the old boathouse, lantern lit, its warm light dancing across the reed walls. "They came for me, didn't they?" "Yes. Will more come?" Kenta nodded. Noboru's voice was quiet. "We can't run forever." "No, we can't. And so they didn't. The next day, Kenta took Noboru to the temple atop Mount Haruki. The monks there were once protectors of the old ways, trained in both scripture and sword. Their abbot, Ichiro, had served beside Kenta in youth. Ichiro greeted them without words, only a silent bow. They stayed 3 winters. Noboru studied calligraphy, swordsmanship, and the ancient laws of honor. Kenta trained him without softness. Every bruise was a lesson. Every mistake, a scar to be learned from. But never once did he raise his voice. The boy grew tall, his eyes solemn. His movements gained grace, his strikes, precision. But more than that, he asked questions. Why did the shogun believe a lie? Because lies wear the mask of truth better than truth wears its own face. Will I take back my clan's lands? When the people ask for a Matsuda, not a sword. By the time he was 12, Noboru no longer looked like a farmer's child. He moved like his father had, and thought like a man grown. And trouble, as always, returned. One autumn morning, smoke rose from the valley below. Raiders, under Suda's banner, pillaged the villages near Mount Haruki. Kenta stood at the temple's gate, watching the sky darken with soot. Ichiro approached. They know he's here. Yes, he can fight, you know. He's not ready. You trained him. Kenta shook his head. I trained him to survive. What comes now is more than swordplay. Noboru stood behind them, listening. Then let me learn what comes now. That night, they descended the mountain. Not as fugitives, but as witnesses. Villagers whispered when Noboru passed, his bearing unmistakable. A Matsuda. Kenta carried the old banner, white crane upon a red field, hidden for years in silk and memory. They raised it above the town square. And the people came. Not all, but enough. They remembered the days before fire and betrayal. The Matsuda had been fair lords, just rulers. Now, seeing the boy, they remembered again. Word spread. Suda sent assassins, then soldiers. Each time, Kenta stood between the boy and death. Until one dusk, on the bridge of Kiso, Kenta met the warlord himself. Suda was older, his armor gilded, his eyes cold. So this is your rebellion? A boy and a blade? Kenta said nothing. Suda sneered. You were once the finest swordsman in the West. Now you play nursemaid. Kenta drew his sword. And still, I need only one stroke. The duel was brief. 2 masters. 1 truth. Steel met steel in flurries too fast for the eye. Then silence. Suda collapsed, blood soaking his crest. Kenta stood trembling, not from exhaustion, but from pain. The blade had found him too. Noboru ran to his side, kneeling. You'll be fine, the boy whispered. Kenta smiled weakly. The light. The lantern your father carried. It's yours now. Noboru's hands pressed against the wound. Don't go. Kenta's voice was barely breath. You don't need a guardian anymore. The stars blurred above them. Kenta's last sight was of the boy's face, framed by lantern light and resolve. The bridge of Kiso became sacred ground. And from that day on, peasants, monks, and merchants alike spoke of the return of the Matsuda. Not through war or fear, but through a single lantern that burned steadily in the night, carried by a boy who had become a man.